Bengals-Ravens recap from Week 11 on Thursday Night Football, last night's game. Thankfully, Joe Burrow's last drive of that game was, arguably one of the Bengals' best drives of the year. 12 plays, 82 yards, took up 7 minutes of the clock, touchdown pass to Joe Mixon, unfortunately, before Joe goes out with the injury. And then we have Jake Browning come in. His first drive was only 5 plays, 22 total yards, but they punted it to the Ravens. In the second half, Cincinnati scored an opening drive field goal, but then proceeded to go 3-and-out on the following 3 drives after that. And Cincinnati's just still susceptible to missed tackles and explosive plays. We saw this in the Houston game. The Ravens had 7 plays of 20-plus yards in this game. Thursday actually marked the first time that the Bengals had allowed 34 points or more since Week 13 of the 2021 season against the LA Chargers. It was the 5th time this year the Bengals have allowed more than 150 yards rushing in a game. And let's not forget, this was a top 5 run defense in the NFL last year in 2022. And, thankfully the Ravens rebound in this game from the ugly blown lead that they've had in quite a few games this year, specifically and most recently to the Cleveland Browns. Lamar Jackson accounted for 318 plus total yards in this game, 2 touchdowns. Now, we did see him get banged up a little bit in this one too, in and out of the blue tent, something that is going to, make people fearful. The fans that are watching him, of course, everyone just involved with the Ravens and that loves Lamar, because we've seen him be a quarterback that cannot stay healthy as well. And we heard me in the offseason saying that he should have taken the money that he was originally offered, because without establishing anything outside of an MVP year that's kind of felt like a decline ever since, what are we supposed to do with that with Lamar Jackson? But you don't want to see him continue to get banged up a little bit. You don't want to see him in and out of the blue tent. I feel like Todd Monken has to protect him better with using the other running backs in the rotations more effectively. But they were 6 for 12 in the game, so 50% on third down. Zay Flowers, OBJ, really great games. OBJ had one of his biggest games in almost 2 seasons. But after Joe Burrow left, the Ravens scored 2 touchdown drives in between the Bengals punting right before they go into halftime. They brought the lead up to 11. Thankfully, Burrow was 11 of 7, 101 yards and that touchdown before leaving the game. Browning unfortunately finished with 68 yards and that late touchdown pass in garbage time to Jamar Chase. But it's not like the Ravens didn't have to deal with any of their own adversity. Mark Andrews' first drive of the season, he goes out. We hear that he's officially out for the season. Lamar Jackson's favorite target, his number one target, his elite pass catcher that's been there for him ever since he's come into the league with the Ravens. And to know that they got that adversity handed to them right on the first drive, Lamar's able to turn around, connect to 9 other Ravens in the game for a total of 10 receivers that caught passes in this one. They ran the ball very well, averaging 5.1 yards per carry. Gus Edwards continues to be that workhorse, punching it in the red zone, one of the better goal line backs in the league, 2 touchdowns in this game. I thought the Ravens did a super good job, too, of when Jamar Chase was in the game, while Burrow was in the game, with Jamar Chase being involved in that offensive scheme. Jamar was limited to 2 catches on the night, and his final catch of the evening, of course, was the goal line touchdown, which was in garbage time. But do you really want to know how good this Ravens defense has been since they acquired Roquan Smith in that trade last year? Speaking of Roquan Smith, 21 tackles last week, 10 tackles this week. He's got 47 tackles in the last 4 games. Just an absolute monster, a machine getting to the ball carrier, that true leader, Georgia boy, with the Baltimore Ravens and on that defense. So in 2021, in the first 9 games in 2022, the Ravens were 19th in points allowed. In the 19 games they've had Roquan Smith, they're now second in the league. They were 24th in total yards allowed. Since getting Roquan Smith, they're first in the league. They were tied for 28th in passing touchdowns allowed. They're tied for first in the league since Roquan came over. They were tied for 14th in the league for rushing touchdowns allowed. They're first in the NFL in that span. They were 23rd in red zone touchdown percentage allowed. They are now first in that category. So the Roquan Smith value is absolutely undeniable. It was one of my favorite trades of last season, and seeing him continue to be able to buckle down next to a Patrick Queen with the secondary, with the pass rushers, with the vaunted defense, leading the league in sacks, being the best defense arguably in the NFL, of course, in terms of points per given up. But the Ravens have to deal with losing Mark Andrews. OBJ got banged up a little bit. We saw Lamar Jackson hobbling some, but none bigger, or I guess the biggest story, of course, is Joe Burrow being out for the season